Welcome to another edition of Late Onset Blues Guitar. My name is Jim Sesters. I'm from the company Sestronics, who is sponsoring these videos. What I was showing you in the introduction was what I'd kind of like to go over today. This particular course, or this particular tutorial, is called Short Chords and a Few Hacks. I came up with this exercise when I was thinking about how to get this across of the different voicings for chords. And I have put down a bass track, and I'm using the drum machine and just a simple 1-4-5 shuffle. This is kind of interesting. I want to start talking about the short chords. And short chords are basically open voicing chords. C, D, A, E, and G. I don't think I spelled cage right, but you get what I'm talking about. Let's take the E position, which is here, and if you slide it up one fret and you bar it, you've got an F. So that E position is now an F chord. And you walk up, you got a G, A, B, C, D. Most people know those. Those are the primary positions. Also, the E minor works exactly the same way. There's a minor chord, then it's an F minor, a G minor, and it works up the neck exactly the same way. Those are the chords most of us learn pretty quickly after we've mastered the open chords or the cowboy chords. But I want to talk about what a friend of mine calls short chords, which are basically using a portion of these chords to change the voicing as you're playing. So I don't really use all of the cage system. That's why I call them short chords. The cage system uses all of the chords, and I think that, for example, the D position is almost identical to the C position. You see, I'm making a C. If I slide it back down, that is a C. That's a D. Well, they're almost the same, so I don't really differentiate them, and you can. Certainly the D7th here is right off that same voicing. So I like the D position, I like the E position, and I like the A position. And that's what I'm calling the basic short chords. So these short chords become very interesting in that these are positions you can use as you're playing rhythm. I'm kind of a stickler for rhythm because I think rhythm guitar playing is not a lost art, but we do this 95% of the time. And I run into people that are pretty good lead players, but really don't have much when it comes to supporting the other players in a jam session or in a live setting. And I'm kind of more focused on that. I'm a blues player. I host blues jams, and I see what people are doing, and I can see that there's some simple things that would make them so much more effective. So one of the things is playing with short chords. So I came up with this exercise actually this morning at home. I was thinking about how am I going to really get this across? And so what I've done is I have the shuffle beat in the Beat Buddy, and I've added the bass track to the Eros looper in the key of A. And this beat happens to be 120 BPM. And what I'm going to do is as we pass through the chords and I'm using the bass, I'm listening to the changes in the bass to be able to know where I am. So I'm going to go to the A. For example, I'm going to go, there's an A there, and an A there. And a D there, a D here, and a D here. And then the E is the same thing. You've got an E here, you've got an E here, and an E here. So those are the three voicings. And I know it looks a little confusing. I am just walking through the different voicings in the different chords as we go through the blues shuffle. This happens to be an A. You can do it in G. You can do it in any key you want to. I say initially work in the blues keys. And if you'll practice this, and practice it with a drum beat. So let's go ahead and go. I'm going to have the drummer count off. Maestro. This is a great exercise, in my opinion, for helping you build up the short chord vocabulary, and also for building up your rhythm clock. And you'll hear me talk about rhythm clocks a lot because, as I was saying in my introduction, I learned to play with fate books, and there was no rhythm machine, and I really had a bad time getting the time feel right. The other thing I was going to talk about, and I played in the beginning, I played two different types of things. This one I learned a long time ago, and I like it because it's so non-obtrusive. And what happens is when you're playing on a loud stage, it's oftentimes that there's no room for a rhythm guitar. You just blanket everybody. You got a keyboard, a harmonica, another guitar player, a bass and drums, and maybe somebody soloing as a saxophone. So there's a lot of stuff going on stage. And one of the ways to make people appreciate your playing is to play these little chords here, and it's almost a hack, but it's all over the internet. People talk about these, but I'm going to show you something. If in this position right here, I've got it hitting an A note and a C sharp note. That's a 1 and a 3. Now if I move my hand to here, I'm hitting the 3 and a G. That's a 7th. That's a very powerful thing. That's an A7th, and really it is enough to outline a chord, especially with the bass hanging with the root. Then if I shift down here, this turns into a D chord, and you can see it here. This is a part of a D7th. So you have the root, the third, and the 7th. So if you pull the root out, this turns into a 3rd and a 7th. The 3rd being here and the 7th being here, just opposite of what's going on here. And then if you move down another step, it turns out to be a G7th. Here's the G, here's the F, and here's the B that happens to be the 3rd. So, and then you walk down here, and I'm jumping around just a little bit, but this is an E chord. That's an E7th. Again, we have the 3rd and the 7th. 7th and 3rd, 3rd and the 7th, 7th and 3rd. This is really a nice way to comp for people. I also think of rhythm as a horn section. I don't play like, I don't arpeggiate. I like quick stabs as a horn section would do, and that lends to the rhythmic feel. Some songs require the arpeggiation, and that's a different thing. But for general playing, hit your note and get out and leave space. That's kind of the way I look at it. I might do a little harmonic motion because, as I showed you, this is the A7th. That's a D7th, just a flip in the inversion. So if I rock between these two, there's that A to D in the harmonic motion, and it's really effective when you play. So I'm going to go through this just a couple of times to show you this, and then you guys can practice this on your own, because I think people in jam sessions appreciate when you leave space and you play rhythm well and play it sharp. We got a drum solo there in the end. Everybody wants to show off. I guess that's what we see a lot of times, even the mechanical drummer. And I was playing with my fingers just to pluck this a little bit. It's so easy to do. You can play it with a pick. And again, I'm muting with my palm. I talked about that earlier on, how playing in this position gives you a lot of options. So that's kind of what I wanted to get across to you, is this idea of using the 7th, I guess you'd call them inverting 7 shapes, and they really work well. Put that in your arsenal, practice it, and I think you'll be real happy with that. There is a guy on YouTube that I really like. He's out of Nashville. It's Corey Congilio. Corey Congilio is a Nashville session player, and he has great lessons, and he'll go into great depth on the cage system and other things. So I'm going to recommend initially that maybe you go take a look at his website and his channel, and you can get more information on this. This is the guitar that I was using when we did the short commercials that show up after these sessions. I guess you'd call this a Frankenstein guitar, except this was done so well that I call it the Bride of Frankenstein. It's got a really nice custom neck on it. These are some JBE pickups, and I've had a body cut done in it because Telecasters cut me. I don't like the ridge on the Telecaster. I'm happy to say I don't have enough padding for that. I love this guitar. A few months ago, I went to a friend of mine, and he went ahead, and I'm going to show you this. He routed out the body for me. The body is routed out right here. And what we put in the route was what we call our microtone from Sestronics. We haven't talked much about this, but me being a blues player and sit in with people, I always find out that I don't like their rigs that they're playing through, or they've got a pedal board that isn't labeled. I don't know what's under the switches. So in this particular model is what we call our microtone blue, and the blue is a overdriven FET amplifier type of pedal, and it is a real pedal. And what makes this thing kind of unique is two things. It has adjustments here. I don't know if you can see them, but the adjustments are basically gain, and there is a mid-cut filter, and there's level control. So just like you might have on a regular pedal. And then it has an LED, and the LED is two color, and it tells you if your battery's running low or if it's running real low, and it's got a microprocessor in it for housekeeping. I happen to be a design engineer by trade, and this was my first attempt or second attempt into making pedals, and this one just kept evolving into something that could be put in the guitars. We have a lithium battery in here, and you'll notice, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a regular 9-volt charging port. It's a 9-volt female jack that you can plug into, and it will charge this thing because there is a battery underneath the board. It has the charge controller and everything. It doesn't care about the polarity. If you put the wrong polarity in, it won't hurt anything. And it'll take 7 to 12 volts to charge it. So it's a really forgiving charging system. And you simply wait till it goes out and your battery's charged, and it lasts close to 20 hours on a charge if you don't forget to turn it off. But that's another thing. If you do forget to turn it off, it shuts itself off after an hour. There's a timer, because I had many nights I'd forget and I come back and I had a dead battery, and that's painful. The other point about this is this small white IC is actually a electric relay, and in the off position your guitar always works. So if your battery runs down or something isn't working, just shut it off. You'll have your guitar back. It doesn't disturb it. And that's how our microtone is set up. And then if you flip around to the other side, the way you turn this on is either a toggle switch or a pull switch. And here I've got it on a pull switch, and I can play a little bit of it. And you can set this up any way you want it. You can adjust the gain to be quite distorted, and it is also very, very much volume sensitive. So it plays like a regular amp. So when we talk about the microtone from Sestronics, that's what we're talking about. And this installation is a routed installation, and I know people don't want to do that with a lot of their guitars. So you can put them into the access case or the access channel in the back of some guitars, or we have another version that clips onto a strap called a mini tone.